What's going on, everybody? This today is a profiterole, which is part two of a three-part series showing everybody how to make a Boston cream puff or a vanilla custard filled profiterole. You can put anything in a profiterole, including ice cream, but we'll get to that. Today we are making the actual profiteroles. So what we're going to start with is a half a cup of water, half a stick of butter, always a pinch of salt. We also have a half a cup of all-purpose flour and 2 eggs. So first thing you want to do is take the half a cup of water, put it into your pot, and the half a stick of butter. This is a good time to add the salt so it can dissolve and everything. So you want that to go, put it on high, cut up the butter a little, it'll help it melt faster. Okay, now you want it to boil, and then reduce the heat down to medium-low. Make sure all the butter is completely melted. You don't want any big pieces of butter in there. So now all you have is buttered water right now. And you want to use a wooden spoon for this because it helps when you're mixing in all the flour and the dough, it doesn't stick to the spoon. So now you want to, I know this sounds weird, but you want to add all the flour all at once. And then mix vigorously. It's going to turn into a dough ball. Notice how it's not sticking to the spoon? And you want to keep this up. You only want very little heat on there. Since I'm using a glass top, I have to turn it off now because it stays hot. Anyone using gas, you'd be able to lower that down to a nice temperature. Okay, I don't know if you can tell, but there's a nice sheen on there, and that's what you're looking for. Okay, you want to transfer your dough ball to a mixing bowl. And you're going to spread it out so it can cool off before you add your eggs. Because if you add the eggs when it's piping hot like that, it will just cook the egg. And you certainly do not want to do that. Then there'll be clumps of cooked scrambled egg inside of your profiterole dough. Give that second or two to cool. Okay, now that it's cooled off enough that you can actually add the egg and not worry about it cooking, you want to add 1 egg at a time. It's easier when the egg hasn't split. And with a beater, you're going to mix in the egg. Okay, now that the egg is mixed in, it's going to look just like this. And it's at this point where I like to add just a nice pinch of cinnamon. Don't go overboard, just enough so it's in the batter. Okay, now you're ready to take your dough that's been mixed with the egg and the cinnamon, grab a pastry bag with a nice wide mouth tip like that, smooth. Now you don't need a professional bag like this. You can use a disposable bag from your local supermarket, or they even have these little simple kits that I've actually made profiteroles with. So you're going to take the bag, you're going to fold it over like this. Make sure you're holding it open when you do this process. Grab a spoonful, send it right down in. Make sure you reopen the hole. Now, if the bag that you're using doesn't hold all the dough, don't worry, you can refill it. Okay. Now the reason why you flap this over is so you don't get any of it on the outside of the bag. And this will also be your twist point. So you're gonna twist it closed, push it down, make sure you get all of it in there. And then twist the bag just until you see that it's coming out. Okay? So this is what you're left with. You're going to want a nice, easy to use cookie sheet with some parchment paper on it. My parchment paper comes pre-cut, so I fold it over. I don't like to have cut paper when I'm using a sheet pan. So what you're going to do is you're going to start right at the top, hold it down, and you want a nice little dollop of dough, just like that. Try not to put them too close together like I just did. Make sure there's a little space in between. You don't want these too big, otherwise they won't be a one bite dessert. Okay, now you have filled your sheet pan with the profiterole dots of dough. You do not want these pointy peaks and ridgy texture going into the oven like that. You're going to take a little water and a clean finger, dip it in the water, and just tap it until you see it a little shiny, and then you can smooth out the profiterole. This way it comes out like a nice, smooth as possible dot. Try not to press it flat, keep the peak there. Just making it as smooth as you can. And you will see why after we are done cooking it. Now, you're going to want to have your oven set at 425 degrees, baking, or convection if you have it. So make sure that's going and it's properly warmed up to temp. Preheat that oven, because if you don't preheat the oven, these will burn because your elements are going to be on, and you don't want them to stay on. You just want them to maintain the temperature in the oven. That's the whole point of preheating your oven. Just make sure you get every single one of these to look very, very smooth. Okay, I've smoothed them out as best as I can, as you can see. And it was simply done by dipping my finger in the water and just smoothing it out, just like this. Nice and simple, nice and light. Do not press them down. So now I'm going to put them in the oven for, I'd say 20 minutes, maybe less. Keep an eye on them. You want to see them when they're nice and brown. You'll see when I take them out. Okay, so after exactly 20 minutes, you get a nice crispy profiterole with a nice golden color on it. But before you do anything to it, you have to make sure it cools off. So for those of you who are here just to see how to make a profiterole and you're going to fill it with ice cream or whatever you want, you can hit stop now. Otherwise, I'm going to continue with the part 2 of making my Boston cream puffs. Give me 1 minute. Okay, everybody, they have cooled off. I'm using a cool sheet pan now, and I've transferred the custard that I made from the first video right into my piping bag, but I'm using an injector nozzle instead of the wide tip that you saw earlier. The injector nozzle is so I can fill up each profiterole, placing it gently in through the side with custard. Okay, and then you're going to feel the weight difference. And then you're going to do that for every single one. And now, once you're done filling them up, you're going to want to go back and just make sure you get the excess that came squirting back out, because when you fill it up, they do tend to expand, but then when you take the nozzle out, they contract a little bit again, and a little bit comes out. But that's only telling you that they're completely full, which is exactly what you want. Nothing worse than biting into an empty profiterole when you're expecting one thing and you get another. So that's how you make a profiterole, and that was part 2. Watch part 3, where I'm going to make the chocolate ganache for the top and show you how to apply it to these actual profiteroles.